as much as we want to kind of poo-poo and dismiss the Bronny James angle to all this stuff, I will say this. It has made it a little bit more intriguing, the whole thing. Like, we may not like it. We may not look. We probably didn't like LaVar Ball and everything that he was doing when it came to Lonzo Ball and all this stuff. But it did add a little bit of intrigue to it. Like, there was something that it added. And while Bronny James is sitting there, and there's the chance, although I do think he's going to be drafted, but there is the chance that, who knows, it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world if he doesn't get drafted later tonight. It is all of a sudden made the second round of the NBA draft that much more watchable, and I would argue probably a better storyline than some of the storylines we saw in the first round of the draft.
Well, I mean, he's the storyline of the draft.
Yeah,
and so that it's interesting. It's quite the phenomenon when you really think about it. And by the way, Dalton, how you say his name? Connect.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Everybody thinks that was the steal of the draft so far. Like, that's just like an amazing, amazing pick for the Lakers. But nonetheless, the headlines continue to be dominated by Bronny James. Coming into it, Bronny James. During it, Bronny James. Coming out of it, Bronny James. And it's going to be interesting if his name gets called. What will that look like? What will the scrutiny and the criticisms, or the lauding and the praising, or both? What will that look like? If he goes undrafted, what does that look like? How is that covered? I think he will continue to move the needle on the relevance of this draft, which to me, seeing all of these G League and foreigners being drafted, it just says to me, I mean, what does that mean to the relevance of the NBA? Do you have to call into question the relevance? Because if you have legitimate prospects and that coverage is legit as well, you don't have to depend on gimmicky types of things in order to make what it is that you're doing keep it entertaining and keep it legit. You don't have to do it. And that was kind of, for me, one of my takeaways is the fact that Bronny James is such the big story, the driving story. Why? I think we all know, as talented as the young man is and as much potential as he may have, he's not one of the top prospects.
No.
I don't even know that he's talent. Listen, in order to be able to make it into the NBA, you have got to be so gifted, and things have to go your way. So for him to be in the position that he's in, there's no harm in that at all. None. But there's this big storyline that just kind of continues to persist. And it's 100% based off of LeBron James. But to me, I don't feel as though, even with LeBron James being as big a figure to the NBA that he is and to sports that he is, that the NBA should be so, in my estimation, this might offend some people, but should the NBA be so irrelevant in its relevance that Bronny James is the biggest storyline and the biggest prospect and the most talked about prospect in this year's draft?
I mean, look, if you want to, like, the NFL doesn't have this problem, right? As we mentioned, college football is so big and so massive that we know who these guys are. So the coverage and the visibility, like, that's what makes the NFL draft what it is. You've got the two biggest sports, the NFL and college football. And I say sports, two different leagues, but the two biggest in this country, all on the same night, which is why the NFL draft has grown and grown and grown and become as massive as it is. And I look at it and I go, Well, if you needed visibility and you needed something recognizable to make the draft more interesting, despite where he falls in the mock drafts and the rankings among everybody else, bro, like I would argue like that name is more recognizable than any other name in the entire draft. Like the entire draft. And the guy might go 55 in the whole. So if you're trying to, if you're solving your fix to bring more notoriety to the NBA draft is, well, we need more visibility. This should be a lesson to the NBA and maybe to college basketball. Figure out a way to start marketing these guys better, because LeBron James has sort of done it his own way and sort of marketed, and he's done it through the media with the help of the media. But it like people are going to be watching tonight, and they're going to be watching tonight because of that, and where he's going to end up.
Let's be honest, weren't we watching last night because of that?
Yeah, and I think once people realize when you got late in the, you know what, you bring up a good point though. I would love to see what the ratings are, night 1 and night 2 of the NBA draft, because it would not surprise me
if they're higher tonight, because you're hoping or you're waiting to see, is he going to get drafted?
Because it's a storyline. Like when people and look, Brady's talked about this before when he was waiting in the draft room, and that became the story of that draft. Like Aaron Rodgers waiting in the draft room, like hey, where's he going to end up? Like who's going to take him? You know, player that maybe goes late. Like the storyline is going to be, where does Bronny James go? Because there's some people that are like, man, the Celtics are picking one spot ahead of the Lakers. What if they just stuck it to him and took LeBron's son and made him a Celtic? Just because, hey, why not? You know, we'll throw him on our G League team. We'll let him work there a little bit. There are some people that think he can play defense a little bit in the league, and maybe that's a possibility. But there's enough added to it that I would not be surprised if the number was better from a viewing standpoint tonight than it is for last night in the NBA draft.
I just got to be honest, and I know y'all have called me a hater, and I know I come across as a hater, but I'm not a hater. I just say it how I see it. If that means I'm hating, that means I'm hating. I don't know. I just say what I feel, and I feel what I say. I walk my walk, I talk my walk, and this is what I say about Bronny James. I just said it. I think he's a talented basketball player. I think he has a ton of potential. But I think if we're looking at prospects and what this NBA draft looks like, there's not very many people, if any, that will get drafted, that if Bronny James weren't to get drafted, that you'd be like, he would have been a better pick than this guy. He would have been a better pick than that guy. I do not think that his level of accomplishment and achievement connected to his talent level says draft grade. I do not. And so to me, I think the bigger storyline here is, because there has been this consistent, he shouldn't have been a McDonald's All-American, Jonas. He shouldn't have played in the game. You heard Papa Dakin say it. Like, you had dudes that were ranked higher than him in the CIF, and they weren't in the game, but Bronny James was in the game.
Hey, by the way, how close were you to being a McDonald's All-American? You had to be
basketball.
Close, right?
I didn't play in my senior year.
But had you play your senior year, how close? Would you have been a McDonald's All-American?
No, I wouldn't.
Could have gotten close though.
I mean, I was good. I was good enough to be, probably, if I went into college, I would have been like a 6th man, 7th man, maybe 8th. I'd have been like an 8th man on the bench.
I would have been a 9th, but again, we're just splitting hairs here at that point.
Here's the reality, man, is that you have to live in reality. Because if you don't make it so that you have to live in reality, I think one of the biggest fails in all of this is actually creating this false sense of reality around Bronny James. I got to do my job. I got to say it the way I say it, and I got to feel the way I feel about it. I just don't think that it has now come to where the rubber meets the road of all of this. You can create all of the hype. You can pay for it. You can leverage it, however you want to call it, whatever you want to do. I mean, I don't know that and this might sound harsh, but should he have been a Division I basketball player?
Damn.
I've seen a ton
Bang, bang.
listen. I've seen a ton of really, like, if you're listening to our show right now and you watch basketball, and you watch high school basketball, and if you watch summer leagues and stuff like that, you and I both know you have seen dudes that are crazy gifted, crazy talented, and did not go Division I. Did not. And to me, when you look at it, sure, he's going to get every benefit of the doubt, and there's nothing wrong with that. Legacy calls for that. But when you also look at what you earn, that's ultimately what it comes down to. I don't care that he went to a Division I school, but now you got to prove why you're there. The hype can't continue to carry you through what got you there.